Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about our approach to planning and execution using AI and some of the best learning methods of our time. Over the past 30 years, I've been very fortunate to learn from some of the best authors and teachers who have made a huge mark in the world and incorporate their concepts into our software to make them easy to apply. And with the emergence of AI, it's never been easier to put these ideas to work. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People came out in 1989 and has sold over 25 million copies worldwide. The 5 Choices came out 25 years after Covey had been teaching the 7 Habits around the world and used as lessons learned to put a modern-day approach on applying Habit 3. The 4 Disciplines of Execution has been around since it was first mentioned in the 8th Habit back in 2005, but the second edition of the book shares many best practices on how to execute goals and strategies. I was lucky to have graduated college the same year that the 7 Habits came out, and I was able to read this book during my first job search and apply these throughout my career. From the beginning of my previous business in 1997, we trained employees on the 7 Habits productivity courses and have been teaching hundreds of workshops for all these years. The 5 Choices is really based around Habit 3 and starts out by emphasizing the time matrix and then goes into defining extraordinary roles in Choice 2. In today's demo, I'm going to really focus on how we apply Choice 3 to plan, schedule, and execute on your goals and OKRs. The second edition of 4DX came out in 2021 with many case studies on how to best implement them. We found that when a company applies these 4 disciplines consistently through the organization on all teams, this is really the best predictor of success for strategy execution. These are some of the other popular methods that I also integrate into my weekly planning and daily execution process. The 5 a.m. Club is all about personal mastery and structuring the victory hour of 5 a.m. to start every day with excellence. Getting things done is one of the most popular productivity methods in the world because the concept of getting it out of your head and into a tracking system applies to all of these methods. And lastly, Julie Morgenstern is a guru on organization and came out with this appalling title in 2011. Spoiler alert, the title really means that you should never check email in the morning until you've done some of the other things first. So in this software demo, I'm going to show you Inspire Software's weekly planning module and how we execute on our tasks, as well as a few other apps that I use prior to the weekly planning process. There's a great application called Calm that's excellent for mindfulness and really preparing yourself for going into the weekly planning process, because really the first step of weekly planning is about connecting with your goals, roles, values, and highest priorities. And so by doing a little bit of mindfulness through an app like Calm, it can really help get you prepared rather than just jumping into your week with all your to-do tasks. The other application I use quite a bit as I'm preparing for my weekly plan, whether it's the week before or during the weekend, getting ready for the upcoming week, is Microsoft's Outlook and To-Do. And by tracking all of your ideas and tasks that you know you need to accomplish, this easily syncs with Inspire. So this is the homepage of Inspire, and this is where, before you jump in and start planning tasks, we have a slideshow feature in the upper right corner. And this is where, you can connect with your goals and values and roles and some of your highest priorities. And there's a nice settings option here where when you click on the gear icon in the upper left, it'll give the opportunity to look at the type of objects that you might want to review. You can decide if you want to sequence them in random. You can actually add some of your favorite quotes. And then you have the rotation speed as well as the font size. So as this goes through, you can simply wait for the photos to go through, and I'll usually have some music on in the background. Or once you've read through your description, you can easily click on the right arrow to go through all of your different roles and goals. And again, this is really a great process to look at what you set out to do at the beginning of the year or the beginning of the quarter, and remind yourself of some of your most important priorities so they have a play into some of the tasks that you're going to be planning for the week ahead. Even things like great friend or spouse or family member are great to have in here because you can really think about how much time you've been putting into these roles and relationships and decide if you need to do some extra planning this week to make sure you have a balance. The next thing we'll do is we'll go to our objectives, which is the widget here on the right. I'm going to drag it over to the center just to put it front and center. And you can see it's sorted by priority. So I have priority 1 at the top, priority 2, priority 3. If I had more goals, they would show at the bottom. but it's really all about putting what we call the big rocks, or what Franklin Covey refers to as the big rocks, by doing the most important tasks first, which you ask yourself the question, what's the one or two things I can do this week to make some progress on this objective? You can also use AI, which is a great feature that's going to look at all your key results and suggest tasks based on which of your key results are behind, and incorporate some of the things that it recommends you do. And so I'm going to take a couple here as I'm selecting and add this, and you can see it's going to add it to my first goal, or wildly important goal. And then I'll go down to the second one, use AI again, suggest tasks with Inspire AI Assistant, and then look through the tasks and decide if I'm going to take a few of these on. You can also edit them right here or generate more. And then a lot of times you already know what you're going to do on a few of your objectives, or what you should be doing. So AI, again, is just a great tool to look back at your week, bring in action items, and then I can also set high priorities so we can get a sense of each day as these come up, what are the things I need to execute first. So by setting it to priority A, it's going to put this little exclamation point on and really stand out amongst all the other tasks and things that you have to do. The little red circle indicates that this was a task that I should have done. It was already due. And once I sign it off as done, you can see that when I click on the auto check-in, it's going to automatically put in the completed tasks and give me the opportunity to update my progress through a check-in. And then this week, I'm going to move on to my next book, since I finished the previous one, and set this up in my weekly calendar. All right, so now I'm going to go into the Inspire Plan module, which you can see at the top center of the screen. We're going to go to Weekly Plan. And this shows all of my objectives and roles, along with the tasks that I have planned so far from the homepage. And now I can go in and start to think about dates. I don't want to do dates quite yet. I'm going to look at my to-do tasks and make sure that they're all in sync down at the bottom of the screen. I can pull up the miscellaneous, and this shows that everything that I put in my to-do app will show up here in Inspire, and I can start to plan against these as well. So I have things just like mow the lawn and other miscellaneous tasks that I want to make sure I get in, fit it into my schedule. Now I'm going to click on the weekly calendar here, just up to the upper left. And this is actually showing my Outlook calendar, all the recurring meetings that are happening, as well as a few things that I planned ahead. But it's pretty much a blank. And on the left side, I have all of my objectives and tasks that I've put on under those in the first part of the planning from the homepage. So I'm able to pull these right over to schedule an appointment. And what I always try to think about is, if this is going to take 30 minutes or more, then I'm probably going to put it on my calendar and schedule it. But if it's a task that's going to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then what I'm going to do is drag it down into the tasks area. And what that does is it essentially puts on a due date and shows that's going to come on Monday, for example. On this schedule and facilitate a brainstorming session, I'm actually going to schedule this because this is going to involve some other team members. We already have a recurring meeting with that team on Tuesday. So I'm going to drag it right over to where that Inspire solutioning exists, and make sure that we put a little extra time to do some of that brainstorming and identify the new large capabilities. And now I can go through and start to bring tasks either to my calendar or to the task area to really start to provide a good balance of what I think I can execute in any given day, making sure I leave room for things that come up, emails that come in. I haven't gone into email yet. That's where getting some of this done before you start to respond and being overwhelmed with other tasking. All right, so now a few minutes have gone by, and you can see my calendar's pretty well filled up with all of the tasks down at the task bottom. Everything on the left side now has a due date assigned, whether it's on my calendar itself or down below in the task area. So this is the daily planning feature, and this is really nice because it simulates the old Franklin Planner, lets you easily reprioritize tasks, and be able to defer things to a future date by clicking on the little icon. I can move them around in order. And really the idea is you should be executing the tasks in the order that they're in. As you sign them off, they'll put the little green check there with the ability to auto check in if it's against an objective. But I've got a great way to see my day. I've got all my actions from the Inspire software on the right side, as well as favorite quotes coming in to get yourself inspired and motivated. And then I'm going to go over to my objectives and really just look at how the team details is going to bring in any of the tasks that I've planned for my part on the team. And so we can see as our scoreboard as we go into our team meeting with who's on every key result. This one I'll expand and shows that we have 4 people on there. And then clicking on the team objective progress is really where you do the cadence of accountability, where if everybody has tasks planned ahead of time, you can expand and go around, whether it's the teams meeting or the conference room, and talk about my commitments for the week. What am I planning to do? And also what I accomplished last week, and maybe somewhere where I need help. So this is the weekly process, and I hope it was very helpful. Thank you.